Welcome to the Byja Radio Show. I'm your host, Dr. Byron Jasper, and we are recording live from J. Kinba Executive Suites in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with special production by Becnel Media. Good afternoon. It is March 5th, Tuesday, episode one of the Byja Radio Show. Byja Radio Show. Huge blessing for me. I am with my co-host, the one and only Mr. George Becnel, aka I think he'd be okay with me saying this patient zero.
Patient zero.
So,
like that.
So patient zero is with us and will be with us pretty much every week. Our goal is to put out a radio show that is beyond just another radio show, similar to our clinic, Byja Clinic. And what we're doing in the Byja Radio Show is to try to put out good information about health, wellness, not just physical health, but mental health, financial health, all of these things with the focus not only on taking care of people, but also talking about direct primary care and primary care in general and how it works. So with the idea of the show, which came to me about 2 or 3 years ago, I said, look, we don't have to have it perfect. We don't have to be beautiful. It just needs to be something that we really want to do and want to do well. So I appreciate you for taking this journey with me. People are going to look at us crazy.
Of course.
They're going to think, what the hell are y'all doing?
Well, I'm used to people looking at me crazy.
Right. And, being brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha, we're used to people looking at us crazy and doing things differently, but we always got to go first. And when we go first, we'll always be the foremost. And I'm okay with saying that.
Amen.
So
I like that.
So based off of that, the goal of today is to really just give introductions and explain who we are, what we do. So I'm going to pause because I can talk a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm sure a lot of people know I talk a lot, but I'm going to pause and turn it over to the co-host, Mr. Becnel. Mr. Becnel, you want to tell him a little bit of a background about who you are, potentially how you came to think about direct primary care.
Sure. And
then maybe we'll talk a little bit about the bare bones of what DPC is, or direct primary care.
Sure.
Let me go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good deal. Like Byron said, my name is George Becnel. Native of Donaldsonville, Louisiana. I've been a resident of Baton Rouge pretty much the majority of my adult life. I caught COVID in 2020, and I had a rough battle with it. And I went to urgent care, and was told good luck. I got some over-the-counter meds to help with the symptoms.
Uh-huh.
And then, once I got better, I got, blessed with a $250 bill.
Yeah.
So
disrespectful.
That was kind of the last straw for me in the type of medical model. So I've always been a person where my parents raised me to take care of yourself, to go to the doctor when something's wrong. So we went to the doctor often. I already had a relationship with Dr. Jasper, and when he was at the Baton Rouge General Clinic, I was a patient of his then, and he broke off to do the direct care model, and I was a little skeptical of it, like most people, right. I assume were.
Yep.
Because I've always used my insurance, but as time went on, my insurance got worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yep.
Like I miss going somewhere and just having my $30 copay,
right?
Having my $50 copay for a specialist. Like I miss those days. So medical care became very frustrating for me when I would get these bills and I would try to pay something when I would see the doctor, and I was told that I didn't know anything. Then I'd get a bill for like $350, $250, $400. It just really became very, very frustrating to me. So once I got that last urgent care bill in the mail, that's when I decided that I was going to give this direct primary care thing a shot. Because one thing about it, I knew what I was going to be paying every month.
There you go. And
that was very, very important for me. Also, I like the fact that my doctor visits are about an hour. So we can really talk about some things. And if you're being honest with yourself and you're listening to this, you've had a doctor's appointment where the doctor popped his head in, you talk to him about 10 minutes, 15 at the most, and then he leaves you like, all right, take care, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not done.
Right.
Like I don't have those type of issues anymore. So, I know I've said a lot of things, but for those reasons and more, I decided to give the direct primary care model a shot. And I don't think I would do anything else at this point.
Yeah. Well, let me backtrack a little bit because you hit a few points. So it sounded like you were in the traditional model. You'll hear us call it the fee-for-service model because you're basically paying for service as you receive it. And it got a little frustrating. With the frustration, it sounded like you were also having trouble getting access when you needed it most, even though we were actually the people providing care for you in the other model. The same doctor couldn't do all the things that you were wanting them to do. And I was that doctor. So it's actually surprising where people think, oh, well, it's more of a doctor issue. No, it's more of a system issue, right? So by you having that system issue, we'll kind of go into different parts of the system and way things are happening. But the part it sounded like to me that was more frustrating with you was the surprise bill.
Yeah.
And the fact that your doctor may or may not have time to be in the room with you doing the things they need to do. And more importantly, trying to figure out how to navigate getting into care that meant something where you weren't necessarily getting a surprise bill, a surprise checkup that caused very little time out in the office, but had a bill that was astronomical on the back end.
Yeah. And you add that to just having access, period.
Gotcha.
Because in that other model, the whole reason why there's such a thing as urgent care is because it's very difficult for you to get to your primary care physician anyway. Because if I call Baton Rouge General, I'm like, hey, can I speak to Dr. Jasper? They're going to be like, no. Maybe. I'm going to speak to a nurse, or I'm going to speak to someone who books appointments, and I may or may not get to you in, fastest 2 days, 3 days, if, and that's on fasting.
Yeah, fasting.
So the urgent care model, the urgent care clinic exists because of that.
Because of the inefficiency.
Right.
Sounds like.
So then you could go to urgent care, you're sitting in the waiting room for God knows how long, but at least you get seen that night. And then if they can help you, which is cool, then you might have some relief, but then you get the bill on the back end where now all of a sudden I could just text the number or just pull up and I'm good.
You good. Yeah, I agree. So let's take a moment to kind of give some basic definitions about direct primary care. And the more we do this, eventually some of this is going to be second nature, just like you would in any other class where you're learning basic nomenclature, you're learning how things work, what terms mean what. So DPC, direct primary care, is the initials that you'll hear us say a lot, and they're pretty much interchangeable. The concept of direct primary care is one membership per person, and you're paying for services on the front end. So what does that important concept mean? Well, what we say in DPC a lot of times is think about it like car insurance. With car insurance, you're not necessarily paying for your services with your insurance. You're getting gas, and when you get gas, you pay for the gas, and then you leave. You end up doing the service and paying out of pocket for your oil change. Well, in healthcare, it's pretty much the only system where you're paying for stuff through a third party for every single thing, especially for primary care visits, labs, x-rays. So in direct primary care, the patient directly works with the physician or the clinic. And when the patient directly works with the clinic, it allows them to potentially have direct access when they need it most. So that's the just basic concept. Direct primary care, DPC, is a subscription-based model or a membership-based model where a person is literally paying for services directly to the clinic, to the physician, to have better access and to have a very straightforward, transparent process. That's all it is. And if a person understands that, the rest makes sense. So you heard George mention really honestly, he's having trouble in the past dealing with surprise bills, difficulty getting access, difficulty having a direct line to the doctor when they needed it most. And that was something that was completely, what's the word I'm looking for? It was completely surprising to see that didn't exist when you're sick and you need it. Right. And now in this new model, you're having all of those things, and it sounds like it's also very transparent.
Yeah.
So with that being said, the one other thing we'll focus on today, because again, our goal is to kind of make this a recurring show. We're going to try to not only do it in the traditional sense where people do a lot of podcasting where you're kind of following a script, But for us, our goal is to also make it to where people don't realize that we're going to be doing things a lot different, because that's kind of the model, right? The model is to do things different than what everyone else does and to be in your own space, right? So at the Byja radio show, which again, not a podcast. I want to make sure I emphasize that. It's not a podcast, it's a radio show. So with radio shows, that means things are potentially a little bit surprising.
Right.
So based off of that, George has no idea that today I'm already going to surprise him by just basically testing his knowledge of DPC.
Okay.
So George, you've adequately and very proudly claimed to be patient zero.
I am patient zero.
So patient zero means basically that you were number one in the practice. Pretty much right before one, because we had none, right? All right, so let's see if George is on his game, all right? No pressure, George, none whatsoever. So we're going to see if George can get to 5 points with roughly 10 questions. It's only a 50% chance that you're going to fail.
Okay.
And we're going to basically test George on direct primary care and Byja Clinic. Okay? Simple questions, a few of them.
Sure.
And outside of a few of them, some of them are a little tougher. So we're testing to see if George has been paying attention when he comes to his doctor's appointments. Okay. Some of these are going to be very simple, very much layups, and then we're going to hopefully progress into tougher things. All right, so simple question number one. When was Byja Clinic initially thought of before launching? So I'm going to make it simple, because thought of before launching. So I'll make it a little bit more streamlined. So we all know, most people know, that Byja Clinic opened in September of 2020.
Correct.
So do you happen to know when was the original concept thought of? And I'll give you a hint. It was in the same year.
It was the same year.
Same year. No pressure.
I'm going to say, because I vaguely remember you talking about this.
Okay.
I want to say February of 2020.
Great question. Great guess, but incorrect. It was January of 2020. It was January of 2020. A lot of people didn't realize that the idea was formulated because I went to an actual conference on direct primary care in 2019. And in 2019, after seeing all these other doctors who were doing the model, showing that it was actually possible, and it wasn't insane, it wasn't this guy just thinking it's something he could do, it's other people across the country doing it, I said, you know what? I'm definitely doing this. I was just more of how. And it's surprising because we actually put in our paperwork to form the business in January. And if you look at our paperwork, our articles of incorporation, because we're a legit business, we're not doing this out the back of a truck. we decided that we were going to do it in January. Now, getting all the stuff together to actually launch didn't happen until September because, there's something called a pandemic that you may have heard of.
Yeah.
So that one thing was pretty surprising. So January of 2020 is when we said we're putting in paperwork, we're doing it. It's launched in September. So we're going to question 2 now. So question 2, simple enough. Where was our first location?
Okay.
And you don't need the address. I just want to know the street name. Because patient zero said he was number 1. He should remember all these things.
So I was there. Look, and the crazy part is, I could drive to it.
It's right by the house.
It's right by my house. So I could drive to it.
Let's see if you
point at it. Like, I don't need directions to get there. I can't tell you what street. It's off of Drusilla.
Okay.
I know that. Oh, man.
It starts with a C.
I was thinking Common.
Common Street. It was Common Street.
Yeah.
It was Common Street.
I wasn't sure what the street was.
Well, why
but I could tell you, I could get there a lot faster. Like I was getting there like in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But
I remember Common Street always because it was very common. It was
nothing special about it. It's nothing special.
Tell me how you feel about the office, man. Tell me.
No, I'm talking about the street. The office.
No, I was talking about the office.
The office.
Yeah, that was very common.
Yeah, the office was it was humble beginnings.
Very humble.
We've upgraded. It's nice over here. But yeah, it look. I'm gonna say this. It was never like a dirty place, or it wasn't like a rundown place or nothing like that. It was just plain.
Plain.
You had an exam table, you had a desk, you had a scale,
and a couple shelves.
That's all you needed.
I did have a refrigerator.
I remember that.
That was an upgrade. The parents decided to bring me a refrigerator.
That's tight.
And they were supportive enough to say, we have no idea what you're doing, nor do we know why, but we're going to support you, which is good for parents, right?
Yeah.
Printer was in the same room on a table, a fold-up table.
Yeah.
We had a closet. And the best part of Common Street, which a lot of people don't know unless you were with us at the beginning, the bathroom was at the back of the building, and we had one place to go to get to the bathroom.
Yep.
Do you remember where that was?
Or it was out the back door and you had to make a right to get to the bathroom.
So the funny part
So it was like a community bathroom with all the other tenants in that building.
Everybody had the same bathroom from the building, but the best part that a lot of people, and best, I'm being very, very sarcastic, is that people had to walk through the exam room to get to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So if I had a patient and you had to go to the bathroom and you were in the waiting area, I would have to pause the visit, ask the patient, can another patient walk through to go to the bathroom? So that's how humble the beginning was.
I never had that experience.
Of course not, right? So that's why I said a lot of people don't realize that,
I didn't have that
to
experience.
get to where we are now, doing a radio show, having you sit and talk with me, and then having guests eventually come, we had to start from nothing, right? The whole started from the bottom, now we here concept, oh, it was real. Like you said, we had everything in one room.
Yeah.
We did have a waiting room, which no one ever sat in. They would literally walk through and come to their actual visit. But the visit, there was no separate room. If you needed to change clothes to put on an exam gown, what do you?
Like you had to leave.
I had to leave. I had to leave and go stand in the waiting room when someone had to change.
Yeah.
That's how humble it was. So when I hear Common Street, you 100% know that I mean it when I say it was common. It was common. So that was question 2. We got roughly 7 more, and I say roughly 7 more. Now some of these are going to be easy because they're going to be back-to-back questions.
I was thinking common because you rocking the common beard.
That's my cousin. My cousin by my first name.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, man. I was like kick, push, but
Well, that's not common.
yeah, that's not common.
That's Lupe. That's okay.
True.
That's all right. So, all right, you're losing points on the hip hop side. That's all right. That's all right. I'm not judging you. All right. So we got a few more Byja radio show / Byja clinic trivia again because we keep you on your toes. All right. So you're 1 for 2.
I'm 1 for 2.
1 for 2. You got Common Street, but you didn't know when we started. And that's okay. The first one was probably a little tougher. I kind of lied to you, but that's okay. Got to keep you on your toes. So question number 2. Number 3. What year did we move to the new location? Now, we've been open for roughly 3 years and some change. And with us being in 3 years and some change, almost year 4, when did we move to our new location? And again, don't have to have the exact day, but we do want to have an idea of what month, maybe what year.
It was definitely 2022.
Okay, that's correct. Now, that's why I said 2-part question. What month, what year? So we're 2 out of 3 now.
Month. Man, I'm not going to know this. I'm thinking.
You don't overthink it. Again, it's mostly everything happens literally in a year. So
I'm going to just go January.
it was January of 22. It was January of 22. It's not even that complex. We literally were on Common Street for roughly 2 years. And in 2 years, we were fortunate and blessed enough to be able to get into our own space that actually had a reception area, a lab area, an exam room, and actual bathrooms in the same suite. So again, small flex, but nevertheless, it's definitely a blessing. So, all right, so we're at question 5 now, all right? Question 5. Now, we're going a little bit deeper, okay? A little deeper is not necessarily anything complex, but I want to give a general idea. If you say, in the state of Louisiana, can physicians dispense medications to patients directly as far as DPC goes? Is that a true or false thing?
It's true.
100% true. Now, why are you surprised potentially by that? If you're in the audience, you're not, obviously. You're not, because you're used to that. But a lot of people don't realize that in certain states across the country, a lot of direct primary care physicians actually dispense their own medication. So I have a dispensing license, and with that dispensing license, I'm able to not only count pills, but also potentially dispense them. Now, that's not to take away from pharmacists. That's not to take away from the fact that pharmacies exist. There are some amazing pharmacists, especially in the Baton Rouge area, and we love working with them. But the idea is that it also helps to streamline care sometimes when a person really doesn't feel well, they need a prescription, and we're able to kind of provide it to them right in that space. Happened yesterday with the patient, actually. Patient actually showed up and was extremely nauseated, like about to throw up everywhere. And we were able to literally dispense him the nausea medicine, give it to him, and he was able to literally take it while we're in there. Now, some people will say, well, how's that any different than just giving them the medicine? Well, the difference is he can take this home with him. This is not administer it. He has to take it in the room, and then he can't take with it.
You get a prescription.
Correct.
You get a prescription bottle.
Yep.
You can have a full,
90-day supply.
And you're good. So,
Yep. All right. So, true or false? So, you're on fire, man. You only missed one.
Yeah, so I'm 2 for 3, right?
No, we're at number 5. You're 4 out of 5.
4 for 5.
4 out of 5. So, there's no way in the world you should miss the rest of these, right?
Okay.
That's what I'm hearing, correct?
Right.
All right. So, we're going one step further.
4 out of 5. Right.
4 out of 5. So, number 6. How many direct primary care physicians are in the city of Baton Rouge currently?
I know of one other.
Okay.
I know of one other.
All right, I'll help you out. Is it less than 10?
It was absolutely less than 10.
Okay.
I was thinking like 3 or 4.
Okay. Well, we can't get 3 or 4. We got to pick one number. All right, I'm going to help you out. Is it less than 5?
Yes.
Okay. So how many are you going with? You got less than 5, which is correct. Not the full question, but it's correct. How many would you say are in Baton Rouge?
I'm going to do 3.
Damn it. Yes. How do you get that right? The reason why I'm giving it to you is because we have 4, but one is in Denham Springs.
Yeah. Right.
So technically not Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
However, Baton Rouge area. But there are 3 in the Baton Rouge area currently. 3 of us, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the other part that people are surprised by when I say, hey, it's not just me. And they're looking at me like, how the hell did you come up with this concept? And I'm like, no, it's actually been around, and there's other people doing it, right? We started, and I was fortunate enough to be the first Black-owned business in Baton Rouge and in the state doing direct primary care. But now I can say we at least have 5 across the state. Mm-hmm. But if we have in the city of Baton Rouge, we have 3. So 6 out of, what is that, 5 out of 6?
5 out of 6.
Okay. Do you do this often? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that why you're patient 0?
I love trivia.
Is that why you're patient 0?
That's exactly why.
All right. So patient 0. Let's see if you have a few more. So we got 3 more left. All right. So based off of the direct primary care concept, do you, as a patient, have to have insurance?
No.
Hold on. It wasn't that. Have to have insurance to do labs, x-rays, or get prescriptions when you're a direct primary care patient?
No.
Okay.
You don't have to. Now, insurance helps some of those things.
Okay.
But you don't have to.
You want to elaborate a little bit by any stories that have kind of come your way with this?
So for me, I normally get my medicine here at the clinic. But, obviously I got to go other places for other things, right? Mm-hmm. I've had to have like a lab. I've had to have labs. I've had to have x-rays and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And sometimes my insurance will supplement those things because I'm going to another party. Mm-hmm. So it does help the fact that I have insurance. I would encourage people to have health insurance with the direct primary care model because it'll supplement other things that you may do, because as much as I love it here, as much as I don't want to leave, I love the fact that it's a one-stop shop, but there's other places I need to go for different things.
Gotcha.
So
100%.
Insurance helps.
All right. So that was 8, right? Mm-hmm. So we got 9 and 10. So 9 and 10 are back-to-back questions. Okay. Mm-hmm. Question 9 for Byja Clinic, Byja Radio Show trivia. Mm-hmm. Can you let us know, with your actual membership, are you able to use an HSA, an FSA, or any other type of flexible spending account to cover some of your costs?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Man, my HSA is a godsend, because
you sound really excited.
Yeah, I'm using my HSA, man, to pay my membership fee.
Okay.
I also use my HSA to for my prescriptions that I pick up here.
Mm-hmm.
So my HSA, and I'm fortunate because I work for a company where my HSA is actually matched by my company. So what I contribute is what they match up to $500 a quarter or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, so technically I'm only paying 50 cents on the dollar for what I spend my HSA on because my company matched it. So
there you go.
It's a blessing to me, and I love using it.
Yeah, there you go. Now, the one thing I'll say is that with the HSA, it depends on the human resources department. It depends on the company. It depends on the state. A lot of people are surprised that an HSA may be available to use for direct primary care. Mm-hmm. And in some instances, some companies may not. But if you have that ability to talk to your company, talk to the people who administer those benefits, they may be able to tell you, yes, you can absolutely use it, and that will help to offset some of those costs to where you're not having to come out of pocket. Question number 10, simple enough. When was our most recent anniversary for the clinic?
It was September 2023.
September 2023, man. And I'm only bringing that up because I think you got an award that day.
I did for being patient zero. So it was a great time. I appreciate the surprise. I do enjoy being patient zero. I like to tell everybody, I like to walk around here like I own the place, and tell everybody.
You do pull up and it's usually like, yeah, George is here. It's really like no actual formality at this point. You almost work here.
Yeah, I just come. I'm invested in it. I love the place. I'm invested in the care. I'm invested to see it thrive and grow. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I appreciate the award, and I do like to pull up like I'm a big dog.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate
patient zero.
Well, we appreciate you, man. Like I said, I've told the story before. Number one, we're trying to do different things. We're trying to grow the practice, but more importantly, we couldn't grow unless we had someone who gave us a shot, right? Mm-hmm. And when we started, we had 0 patients, right? It was me opening a practice during a pandemic in a new model that no one understood in an area that they didn't have a lot of DPC practices, and trying to get people to believe that we were going to be successful. We had to take somebody to give us a shot. And I think from you, it gave me the confidence to keep going, because it's really easy to get down when you're doing a new business and people don't really buy in. Right. So by us having that ability, I was really happy about that. So I really wanted to just say, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to kind of spread my wings as a business owner. And then on top of that, just to kind of keep growing and keep rocking with us. So that takes care of our trivia. I'm disgusted to say you're 9 of 10. I really felt like you were going to be a strong 7 out of 10, just because some of those things were, some of them were layups. I'll give you that. Some of them, but some of them were a little bit tough. So next time I'm going to the humble beginnings part, because I would have thought you would have never got Common Street.
I was thinking Common Street the whole time, and when you said it started with a C, I was like, oh, that's it. That's Common Street. Because I remember Common Street, but I just wasn't sure because there's a lot of streets back there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I didn't know if it was, I don't know. But I'm just glad I got it.
I'm going to go one step further. Do you remember what building we met at the first time I came on your podcast?
Yeah, it was the Century 21 building right around the corner.
Right around the corner, right? That's how weird it was, man. So when I found that space to rent to be a direct primary care practice space, I drove down and I was like, man, I've been back here before. And I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I literally drove by and I said, I think it was this building where we met.
Yeah, it was.
Tell me how serendipitous it is that I met you doing a podcast at the building, and around the corner you became the first patient of a practice that was literally around the corner. Like it, if you believe in a higher power, things don't just coincidentally happen like that.
And I don't want to turn this into like a religious show, but I do deeply believe in God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
But I also personally think that God got a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And sometimes
100%.
And sometimes when things happen full circle like that, you kind of chuckle. I really think that's him, like just kind of being like, you see what I did there?
Yeah. Watch me work.
Yeah, I really think he's like that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he has a sense of humor. So
Yep. Well, we'll wrap up the show with a last topic because, again, the goal is not just to talk direct primary care, it's also to talk about health. So one of the things we'll talk about briefly is something called GLP-1 medications. And GLP-1 medications, a lot of people know about them. These are the weight loss medications / diabetes medications. So I'm going to ask George a straightforward question. So any idea what patients are potentially doing with these medications besides just doing weight loss and diabetes? Now, what I mean by that is, are they taking it by mouth? Are they doing injections? Are they doing things under the tongue? Are they rubbing it on their skin? So what kind of administration route are you seeing with those medications? Any idea?
Sure. So obviously, I would assume people are taking some of these things by mouth.
Okay.
Because when you think of medicine, and unless you're like 5, right? When you think of medicine, you think of pills,
Yep.
right? It's no. You remember that pink amoxil?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, we used that the pink amoxil. Anyway, so since we're like over 7 years old, like when you think of medicine, you think of pills, right?
Yep.
Also, I've seen some of the things where I believe it's what's the one? Was it Ozempic? Mm-hmm. I think Ozempic is one of the ones that you inject.
Yes.
In yourself. So I've seen that.
Yep.
I haven't seen anything else. I didn't know there was a cream or anything or
no. So you got the two. Most people don't realize that. Most people know about the injections. Some people don't realize there are oral versions of that class of medicine. So it's very surprising that some people are surprised when I tell them, yeah, there's an oral version of the medicines. And the ones that a lot of people don't realize is that the GLP-1 category is a category, right? It's not just one medicine. Some medicines are in that category, and they're in that category based off of the old medications. And then the newer ones have gotten better. It's no different than a person who comes in and I tell them, if I'm giving you aspirin for a headache, yeah, it probably can make some pain relief, but there's a lot better medicine nowadays that helps with headaches, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So that's why the GLP-1 categories are pretty impressive to me, because not only are they injectable, but they also have oral versions, and some are once a day, some are once a week. And I wouldn't be surprised if they come back in another week or two. Another year or two, and all of a sudden they're once every other week, because a lot of medicines are starting to get so good at their manufacturing that they are all of a sudden have this ability to be long lasting. And that's how the one shot once a week was pretty surprising. So with that being said, common things with GLP-1s that I like to mention, just kind of giving health tips and talking about that. Not only are they really good about helping to lower your blood sugar, they're also good about helping to cut appetite. And cutting appetite helps with weight loss. But the other thing that it does that a lot of people are surprised about is it slows down your gut motility. So what is gut motility? It's basically the way your stomach digests food, the way your intestines break down food. So if your intestines are breaking down food in a very, very fast way, let's say 100%, and it breaks it down at 100% capacity, this may knock it down to 50%. So now that your food is not being digested as quickly, you feel full. When you feel full, you're less likely to overindulge or overeat. And then of course there's the part where it suppresses appetite as well. So it's a two-tier approach. And people are pleasantly surprised when you say it works really well, because it's doing two things. It makes you feel full in your brain, but it also makes you feel full in the stomach by slowing down the digestion. Now the side effect profile of it that can be problematic is that it can cause upset stomach, nausea, constipation. So with the nausea, constipation part, obviously if a person's not having the best time with those side effects, they're going to have an issue with getting off of them. But if you can find the way to do it the right way, taking the medicine, supplementing with stool softeners, with high fiber, with plenty of water, all of a sudden those side effects are more manageable, and then you still have the weight loss benefit and the things of that nature. Now, that's just a 50,000 foot view, but it's important because a lot of the patients we take care of, they have no idea about that. They go straight to, I want to lose weight, and I know this medicine works. And then they'll kind of go through a bunch of streamlined approaches and end up with a bunch of side effects and not realize that those are intentional side effects. They're meant to cause those side effects so you don't overindulge. So they work really well. And it'd be a lot better if they were more accessible. But overall, they're really great medicines in that category. So I always like to kind of give those health tips, because we're going to have people who are potentially being long time followers, listeners, and things of that nature. And we want them to kind of come to the show not only learning about the model, but also just learning about medicine and learning about health and wellness and things of that nature. So any questions that kind of stand out to you now that we've had that 50,000 foot view that you would say, look, I'm not the healthcare professional, so to speak, but I am a person who believes in health and wellness. Any questions that you hear me kind of go over that and that kind of stands out to you, you're like, well, if I had the opportunity to ask a question about it, this is what I would do. So I'm putting you on the spot. So
for me, I don't have any questions. I've been in this model for 3.5 years, kind of going on 4, right? So I know the model itself well, and what it comes with, and what it provides, what it doesn't provide. I think the question would be that I had, and that I had to kind of understand. You touched on it, but you didn't really dig into it. Would be the benefit or the why have insurance in addition to this. I think that's the $1 million question when it comes to this. Or, should you cancel your health insurance just because you have this? That's a question I had initially.
I'll say for the time we have left for today's recording, you should keep insurance. That's the short version, because insurance is meant to be there for big things. That's literally how it's, for the most part, set up. It's unfortunate that in the healthcare system, we're using it for every little thing, and that's why it's so expensive, right? When you're using it for a copay, a deductible, a premium, an x-ray, a lab, a doctor's visit, a prescription, all of a sudden your cost goes up, because every time you swipe or present that card, it is a cost. If you did that for everything with your car insurance would be through the roof. So the goal is to use it similar to a car insurance. Our model is built that if we can use insurance wisely and really for big ticket items, you would save a lot of time, money, and effort, and all of that would potentially come back to you down the road.
Right.
However, a lot of people don't think about it like that. They just think, I have insurance, I want to use it for everything, because that's how healthcare has kind of made us think it should be.
Right.
It really shouldn't. But if we can figure out how to use it less, I think everybody would be pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, again, we're going to wrap up today, just for the sake of, we don't want this to be a endless radio show. We want it to be segments. We want it to be helpful. We want it to be surprising. But more importantly, we want people to kind of enjoy us talking about the different topics we're going to talk about. So again, next week, plan is to talk more about different concepts within the model. And we'll, open this up. We have social media with the clinic, and we're going to try to start posting this on our social media. So you can find us online, website, www.byja.org, byja.org. Social media handles are at Byja Clinic, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Instagram. We're on LinkedIn as well. But the goal is to post the content and to encourage people to engage with us, right? If you have a question for George, right, just what it's like to be a test dummy at a clinic, I'm sure he can share that information very well.
Get some cool test dummy perks.
I'm only laughing because we clearly have called you and said, hey, we got a new idea. Do you mind us trying stuff?
I'm like, all right,
there we go. So that goes to show you that man is courageous. But you can definitely ask him questions, ask myself questions. We'll do our best to answer them without obviously going above and beyond. If you're not an actual patient, we can give you some general tips. But overall, I think the biggest thing to take home from today is that there's a new model, and it's not really new. It's been around since the 2000s, but the idea is that it works. It's accessible, it's affordable, and it's obviously more streamlined. And if we're doing that the way we should, more people be engaged in getting the primary care. And obviously our hope is that with this show, we'll be able to give people good information. So thank you for checking us out on the first episode. We know it was probably a little rougher than we wanted it to be, but we're going to work out these kinks. I think it's really simple to say we're going to get better at this, but at some point you just got to start. Right? And this brainchild has been going on for a smooth year that we've been talking about just getting it started. And finally, it just came together that we started on today. So
at some point, you just got to do it.
So at this point, thank you for tuning in. We'll definitely look forward to the next episode, and we'll see you next week.